Hello, good morning, and salam sejahtera. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second day of the Bersama Malaysia Summit 2021, brought to you in partnership with Emphasis, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Commvault, and of course, Perjasa. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sophia, and I am your host for Bersama Malaysia Summit over the next 2 remaining days. Now, before we begin, allow me to go through some housekeeping rules, okay? So if you have any questions whatsoever during the sessions, feel free to post them in the Q&A chat box. We will have some time at the end of each session for the speakers to address some of your questions. And now the summit will be recorded and will be available for rewatch on the Microsoft APAC YouTube channel. And for those of you who did not join us yesterday, it's okay. I would like to do a quick summary on the sessions delivered on the first day of our summit. Now, our speakers have shared on how you can actually enjoy the benefits from cloud while still complying with regulation. And following that, we also heard on how you can accelerate your journey to the cloud with Azure VMware solution. And after that, our speaker also shared on how you can get the most out of your Windows and SQL investments and what are the few options to achieve free EOS. And of course, finally, you can also manage your hybrid workforce during COVID-19 and beyond using Azure Virtual Desktop. As a follow-up to a question yesterday about any free Microsoft solutions that can be used for marketing and engagement purposes, I would like to introduce to you Microsoft Clarity. Clarity is a free user behavior analytics tool that helps you understand on how users are interacting with you in your website through session replays and heat maps. And Clarity, this is the good part, is free forever. You can also enjoy all the features of Clarity at absolutely zero cost. You can find out more on Clarity by clicking on the link in the Q&A chat box below. So ladies and gentlemen, today our speakers will be sharing the recommendations on how to prepare for a digital tomorrow by implementing backup and disaster recovery solutions on cloud, increasing organizational velocity through DevOps. And of course, hear about what Power Apps can do for you and how you can better harness data to provide improved citizen experiences. So throughout the summit, we will be running quiz sessions and we'll be giving out prizes to all of you, the winners for today. So do stay tuned. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, to kickstart our sessions today, I would like to invite Mr. K. Rahman, Managing Director of Microsoft Malaysia, and Mr. Adrian Azli, Chief Digital Officer of PETRONAS. Mr. Rahman and Mr. Adrian, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Salam sejahtera, selamat pagi, and a very good morning. Allow me to begin with a warm welcome to everyone joining us today on day 2 of Bersama Malaysia Summit. We hope you find the sessions we have in store today useful for you and your organization as we venture deeper into the power of cloud technology and how it can be leveraged to build operational resilience and agility. Ladies and gentlemen, with each industrial revolution, we see the critical role technology plays in shaping the future of industries, jobs, and the economy as a whole. As we stand today in the midst of the 4th industrial revolution, digitalization is paramount to the success of any organizations, with cloud technology being vital to unlocking business growth in the digital economy. Indeed, the digital economy shall be a key focus area for many organizations, presenting incredible opportunities for Malaysian organizations to grow and succeed. To achieve success, knowledge and understanding on the various applications of cloud will be very important. During the sessions yesterday, we shed some light on cloud security and governance considerations, diving deep into the best practices when operating on the cloud and how to best protect your organizations against malicious threats. Today, we hope to take it a step further, sharing insights from Microsoft and our partners on how cloud technology can be applied to enhance operational resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, in response to the global health and macroeconomic crisis that began last year, organizations have been accelerating their digital transformation efforts at an unprecedented pace to help bolster organizations' resilience. According to our Culture of Innovation study, conducted in collaboration with IDC earlier this year, 77% of organizations in Malaysia are accelerating the pace of digitalization in response to the crisis. We have depended on the cloud. Many have depended on the cloud to not only help maintain business continuity, but also reimagine their mission for long-term growth. This means looking beyond just business continuity, but taking into account future considerations such as changes in the way we work and the agility as well as scalability required to operate efficiently within the digital economy. Our sessions today will highlight some of the key areas of focus that organizations can look at when looking to build resilience using cloud technologies. We aim to highlight the various solutions provided with Microsoft Azure, such as built-in backup management and disaster recovery options, which organizations can tap into to ensure maximum resilience for all workloads. Beyond building operational resilience, we would also like to take a closer look at how cloud technologies are currently being leveraged by nations around the world to improve citizen services in the public sector. In an increasingly connected and tech-intensive world, digital transformation in the public sector is no longer just about IT, but a reimagining of how the public sector functions and uses technology to pivot to new demands and expectations that citizens are placing on them. With so many new technologies like AI, blockchain, machine learning, data analytics, and the Internet of Things, focusing narrowly on technology for technology's sake underestimates the immense potential that digital transformation can offer to the public sector. This is especially true when it comes to cloud technology, with trust being the most essential ingredient for success. While trust is key to any successful digital transformation endeavor, it is perhaps even more so for the public sector. With decades of experience supporting governments across the globe, Microsoft has helped thousands of public sector organizations move to the cloud. In doing so, we have built deep knowledge in helping deliver solutions that meet the compliance, risk, and security standards of governments. For Malaysia, this conversation is vital in helping further the government's My Digital goals to transform the country into a regional leader in the digital economy. A key objective outlined in My Digital is the implementation of the National Digital Identity, which will increase the scope and quality of online services for Malaysian citizens. This emphasis on digital ID is happening in nations all around the world. We have witnessed a theme whereby governments are pursuing new digital strategies for their digital services, which requires new models and digital platforms. As Malaysia continues its path towards becoming a digital-first nation, digitalization of citizen services will be important, ensuring seamless access to online public services platforms that are both secure and resilient. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand today at a decisive moment in our nation's history. Malaysia is primed for success in the digital economy as we see organizations from all industries and sectors look to new technologies as the new way forward. Having partnered with Malaysia for more than 28 years, Microsoft is committed to supporting our nation's digital transformation efforts as we head into the future. This formed the basis of our Bersama Malaysia initiative as we seek to empower Malaysia's inclusive digital economy and advance the nation's digital transformation across both private and public sectors. Our commitments under Bersama Malaysia were made in tandem with industry-leading Malaysian organizations, key among which is PETRONAS, whom we are thrilled to have with us here today at our Bersama Malaysia Summit. In addition to collaborating on cloud-first and digital native policy recommendations via the My Digital Alliance Leadership Council, PETRONAS is also leading the way in adopting cloud and AI in their business, making the experience and learnings invaluable for those who are eager to digitally transform their organizations. As such, we are happy to have Encik Adrian Azli, Chief Digital Officer at PETRONAS, join us today to share his thoughts before we kickstart the day. Before I hand over the floor to Encik Adrian, I truly hope you will find the sessions we have lined up for you today fruitful, and that the insights shared will be helpful in ensuring your organization takes the best and most impactful steps forward while embarking on your cloud transformation journey. With that, I would like to thank everyone for your time, and I pass the floor over to PETRONAS. Over to you, Encik Adrian.
Thank you very much, Encik Rahman. And Assalamualaikum, good morning, salam sejahtera to everyone, and welcome back to day 2 of the Bersama Malaysia Summit. First of all, it's a real pleasure to be here, and I'd like to thank Microsoft for inviting me to be here today with everyone. And I also like to take the opportunity to say that I hope all of you are in the best of health and good spirits amidst this pandemic. While the fight is far from over, I am personally very happy to see that life and the healing process have gradually started to take place in Malaysia. And this is very encouraging as we head into the last quarter of 2021. This year, PETRONAS has streamlined our portfolio to focus on improving costs and operations, creating new revenue streams, and ensuring sustainability, not just in business operations, but also in light of energy transition and our ability to provide clean fuels and as clean energy source. And because of this, there is an increasing and accelerated need for technology such as Internet of Things, analytics, utilization of remote autonomous assets, and all of this is predicated on cloud. This is why, in order to achieve this, we believe having the right platform, having the right technology, and most importantly, having the right partner will be critical in order for us to be able to scale at pace and enable people to be more effective and collaborative in working together. And this is where Microsoft comes in together with PETRONAS. We believe Microsoft is the right partner, not just in its ability to provide the technology and the digital knowledge and know-how, but we also believe that Microsoft shares the same value systems as PETRONAS, where if we look at Microsoft's core value, together we share the passion for the ways technology can make a difference and this critical opportunity to deliver meaningful value to our customers and stakeholders. I think this alignment in value system and our need and our desire to always create value to our customers is what binds us together on this partnership. So enough of the partnership between PETRONAS and Microsoft. Let's talk about cloud now. Ever since the dawn of mankind, the image and the word of cloud has always been linked to something magical, something fantastical, a dwelling of angels and other mystical creatures, right? For ages, it has captured the imagination and the fascination of mankind. And fast forward to today, I think nothing has really changed. The cloud is something that is not just a technology or a project or a tool. To us, we believe the cloud as a game changer, tapping into the power the magic and the fantasy of cloud, we believe in PETRONAS is going to be the key element as part of our PETRONAS digital transformation journey. And we have specified this under the cloud transformation program. In PETRONAS, a large estate of our on-premise infrastructure is limited in its physical capacity, but cloud will enable the flexibility for us to scale up and down to meet the process larger storage demands. At the same time, it will also provide the ability to build applications with advanced technology services that support digital initiatives and with better cyber security posture. So in PETRONAS, we believe there are three critical scenarios or three critical benefits that we have enjoyed as the basis of cloud. Number one, efficiency and cost reduction. Rather than shelling large amounts of money on expensive server equipments, desktop and licenses, followed by long hours of setup and maintenance, we are now utilizing cloud resources with many direct cost reductions and efficiency improvements. An example of this can be seen in Stella, a digital solution in which an AI-driven live advisory is created to ensure that we can capture the tacit knowledge for any startups in our LNG plant. And to develop this solution, we've ingested 3.4 billion data points from 2 decades of operations data collected over 1,800 sensors. This is not possible without cloud. Cloud has enabled us to process these voluminous amounts of data and from there derive valuable insights, which in turn led us to successfully capture more than 40 million worth of opportunities. Secondly, in terms of speed and productivity, how much is the worth to your business if you can get a new application up and running in 30 hours instead of 6 months? Likewise, the word staff productivity doesn't really do justice to the capabilities that staff will enable through dashboards, real-time statistics, and active analytics that can reduce administration burdens and lengthy processes. An example of this in PETRONAS is our solution called Compass, a product where we developed to do long-term investment planning and portfolio for PETRONAS on the back of cloud. With Compass, before Compass, we will require a large army of planners collecting data from the ground up, which takes months every time we had to do a budget planning. Now with Compass, we are able to have a real-time eyes on, hands off. Not only that, we will be able to simulate multiple scenarios. For example, what happens to our profits? What happened to our revenue if oil prices goes up and down? And we can do this multiple iteration within not hours, but minutes and even seconds. This, to me, is one of the power of cloud. Thirdly is the data agility and the quality of the data, in line with the increasing importance of data and analytics, the ability to not just capture, but also allow this data to be viewed by multiple millions of people who needs to see a common single source of truth is important. Again, this will not be possible without cloud. One of the efforts that we're doing in PETRONAS is our enterprise data hub, which is going to be a single source of truth, a repository of data from across the enterprise. Powered by the cloud, the EDH will enable different businesses to obtain the same visibility and understanding of the multiple data across the business. At the same time, this will allow easy access for our data analysts and our data analytics team to undertake all the analytics rather than securing and sourcing this data from multiple sources. So these are the three things or the three benefits and some examples that hopefully creates a better sense of the power and the magic of cloud that we have experienced in PETRONAS. In summary, the enablement of cloud not only helps solve the immediate organization pain point, but more importantly, it modernizes the current infrastructure. Now, cloud is not, and I need to repeat this, it is not a project, it is not a tool, nor is it an IT or a digital fad. Cloud is a game changer in terms of how we do things, how we see things, and how we approach work and decisions. It is a game changer and a step change in terms of operating efficiency, in terms of providing the right business benefits. So for today, I believe I've looked at the agenda. I believe it's going to be a full day. There's a lot of discussions from multiple lenses, from multiple interesting speeches, and I hope this will generate ideas and opportunities for you to also, with your own company, move forward with cloud. I hope that you will bring home with you key valuable takeaways. And most of all, I hope that you will leave this summit feeling that you're on cloud 9. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adrian. We do hope that everyone leaves with a really great feeling today as well. So I like the fact that you've mentioned cloud. It is indeed a game changer in life right now as we know it. And of course, some things has been shared as well, shedding light on the similar virtues in the partnership between Microsoft and PETRONAS. Once again, thank you so much to Mr. Rahman and Mr. Adrian for the very energizing start. We are really pumped up to get it started. And ladies and gentlemen, next up, it is my pleasure to invite Encik Mohamad Faizal Ahmad, Client Executive from Microsoft Malaysia, and Ms. Laine, Principal Consultant Southeast Asia from Commvault, to share more on how we can implement backup and disaster recovery on cloud to improve operating resiliency. Over to you, Encik Faizal and Ms. Laine.
Hey, hi, very good morning. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Over to you, Elaine, just to give a quick introduction.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Yes, the three, can I have my slide, please? Yeah, for today, I will be sharing together with Elaine, our partner from Commvault, on the context of why disaster recovery is an important element to the end customer, especially during this pandemic situation. As you are mostly aware that currently we are in a pandemic, and then why we have to take note in terms of disaster recovery is an important element in ensuring for us to able to proceed with our businesses. So one of the key area why disaster recovery is important is one, it will able give you the ability to orchestrate the recovery of the application in a example of if there is any disaster recovery happening at your organization. Number two, will give you an understanding in terms of how the end customer will able to improve your recovery time on objective RTO and your recovery point objective RPO in the context of both planned and unplanned outages. If you're aware that RPO and RTO in a definition, RTO is a time taken for you to recover whenever there is an outages, and RPO in the context of whenever there is a disaster, how long does the data loss that you were able to handle whenever outages is happening. The other points why disaster recovery is an important element is also to make sure that whenever there is a disaster happening, you can then achieve a zero impact disaster, or having a plan kind of like strategy on how you can then recover your businesses when outages happen. The other most important is having it a disaster. You always have to think at the back of your mind that whatever kind of internet solutions or infrastructure solution that you have, be it whether it's on hypervisor, whether it's on VMware, on a physical kind of implementation, you have to make sure that replication or the solution that you're currently embarking in will have to able to address the outage whenever disaster is happening. Can I have the next slide, please? We kind of know during this pandemic, having such of data protection and backup, there is always be a challenges. Mainly what we have seen across the industry, approximately around 40% of data keep on increasing. Example, like if you build your own infrastructure, having a backups in place, having a grow year on year of the data will definitely increase the cost of your operation and also infrastructure services. And with that also, that will also have an impact when coming from an operational challenges, so the cost of maintenance, cost of managing the infrastructure, especially for backup and also the solution that you're going to be maintaining. So what have customers looking at with those challenges? We are looking at into possibility of other exploration of options, leveraging our cloud technology and how cloud would then able to improve the efficiency of the infrastructure solutions that the customer is currently facing. Can I have the next slide, please? With Microsoft Azure, obviously we do have our own strategy in terms of BCDR. BCDR, as you are aware, stands for Business Continuity Disaster Recovery. We do have our own cloud native kind of solution, but in today's discussion, what we are looking at is how does Microsoft, as a Azure platform provider, work closely with our cloud, with our solution ISV or solution vendor, in this case, Commvault, and how does we then collaborate and use the same technology that customer have invested and then achieve the desire that you want to have when the context of disaster recovery. If you look at in the diagram represented in the screen, on the left side, it represents the current on-premise infrastructure that you have right now. In the context of if you were to then deploy and disaster recovery using, let's example, the tools from our partner, Commvault, you were then able to replicate the same infrastructure in our cloud platform. So the benefits of having that is, number one, the infrastructure as a service is really managed by Microsoft. We provide the compute, the storage, and the network capability. You don't need to worry about having to subscribe to another data centers per se, which is going to be high in terms of cost of manageability. Number two, when it comes to the storage usability, because Microsoft Azure is a hyperscale infrastructure, we do have enough capacity. And then the charging or the cost about the storage is based on the usage that you currently use, whether the storage, the backup content going to be stored over in multiple tier of storage configuration, whether it's a hot tier, cool tier, or even an archive tier. So in the next slides, what we're going to do is Laine from Commvault will be guiding you guys through in terms of how does Commvault together with Azure we're able to help organization like you to achieve a desired configuration. Pass it over you to Laine.
Thank you, Faizal. Yeah. So I continue on from where Faizal was talking about. You want to leverage cloud, right? You want to manage all your data. Your data is the most important asset. So we have multiple ways that we can actually do that. First, leveraging Azure as your cloud storage. If you need to have a place where you want to have long-term retention data stored, right, for tapeless, we have a simple and easy integration in terms of tiering your data to the cloud, right? So you don't have to change what you have today. You can protect both your on-premise as well as your cloud workloads. You can push your data to the cloud for long-term retention. That's the first thing, right? And when you actually store data in the cloud, your data is actually transferred in the dedupe or efficient manner so that you don't have to basically, try to push a large amount of data through the network to the cloud, right? So you have bandwidth and storage optimization with the dedupe capabilities we have built in within the solution. So that's the first thing, leveraging cloud as cloud storage for tapeless long-term retention. The second use case, right, or reason or scenario where you actually leverage cloud is if you want to migrate your data. You have some cloud initiatives, you want to move your certain workloads to the cloud. We have cloud data migration via native integration. Again, we transfer the data, we convert the data for you from your on-premise virtual machines into the Azure VM format so that you can actually then run your workloads in the cloud, right? And thirdly, some might want to leverage cloud as a disaster recovery space. It can be a third site, a disaster recovery site. we can actually integrate within the Commvault suite of offerings for you to basically replicate your data from on-premise to the cloud and be able to perform automated failover and failback via a single click. Single click, I mean, everybody talks about single click. You need to know how easy and seamless is it in terms of moving or filling over your workloads from on-premise to the cloud for disaster recovery. And we provide that within the Commvault offerings, right? So that you can actually define different levels of RPOs and RTOs for your workloads, right? And regardless of, whether you want to manage that data that is on-premise or in the cloud or having that holistic view, we provide that single user interface for you to have that unified end user experience to manage both the on-premise and the cloud data, right? So that you have a consistent management of your policies, your reportings, if you want to basically automate things and comply to your regulations. So we will have that capability all built in. Yeah. Can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So using Commvault Command Center, right? It's a single tool for you to automate and manage any cloud, any data center. So you have that unified view of all your data. You know what's being stored where, right? What you can recover, what your SLAs are. You have an integrated tool for you to actually manage your data. So whether you're a backup admin, you can actually, have a holistic view of all the policies in your environment. You can do capacity trending, of your cloud storage, your on-premise storage, and have detailed reportings, SLA reports. And one key capabilities that we provide within our Commvault Backup Recovery solution is also the ransomware features that we have. And one of it is what we call the security assessment dashboard that gives you an overall risk posture of your backup environment. We want to ensure that the backup data that you're storing for disaster recovery and for other recovery purposes is actually usable when you need it, right? So in the event something happens, you can actually rely on the backup data to restore your environment. And that's where the built-in security features that we have within the solution allows us to prevent and protect against ransomware, right? DR orchestration, right? Wanting to know failover and failback seamlessly is also done via this single tool. Okay, next slide, please. The other key capability provided within the solution is when you want to leverage cloud, you also want to talk about savings, right? Cost savings, right? Deploying the infrastructure in the cloud to protect cloud workloads, right? We do have some features within the Commvault solution that allows us to do that by things like media management or management of these services, so that it doesn't have to be always on. You only enable it when it's required, right? So that you can actually efficiently and optimize the compute that you're using in the cloud. For example, the virtual server agent, which we use to actually perform agentless backup and restore of the workloads in the cloud, you can enable it so that it only wakes up or turns on whenever backup or restore jobs are happening. If it's not, then it'll be turned off, right? Similarly, for the media agent, or rather the component that does the data transfer, it can be also have power management capabilities so that it only wakes up when it needs to do a restore or it needs to tier data, right? And the cloud media agents, you can basically use it to also perform your migration or conversion of workloads from on-premise to cloud-based workloads. Okay, so these are basically some of the key capabilities to help us in terms of managing the cost of running the infrastructure in the cloud as well. Next slide, please. Okay, let's go into a little bit on the use cases I previously mentioned. The first one being leveraging cloud as cloud storage, right? So how do you back up or archive your data to the cloud? How easy is it to actually deploy that? So if you look at the diagram, on your left, you see your on-premise data center where you'll be protecting your workloads, your virtual machines, your databases, whatever on-premise workloads that you have, right? If you have a cloud storage in Azure, we simply integrate by natively authenticating to the bucket that you have in the cloud, and using automated policy management, we will then tier long-term retention data into the cloud storage, right? So we can leverage this as a offsite storage or a tape replacement strategy. And the connectivity is basically native. There's no need for you to have any third-party, components or gateways in between. Your data does not get rehydrated. So basically, you can actually enjoy, bandwidth and also storage optimization when you store data in the cloud, right? So we can use this use case or this scenario for primary data, for secondary data, or even tertiary copies of your backup data. And it's all automatically driven by policies. So you set it and you leave it. You don't have to go manually, keep initiating stuff and all that. Okay. Next slide, please. The second use case is how do you back up your data that's in the cloud? Say you're already running workloads in the cloud, right? In Azure, you have VMs, you have stand-up, you have databases there, applications that you're running. How do you then ensure that the data within that is also protected, right? So we do provide the ability for you to protect those data by deploying the Commvault infrastructure, the backup server, the media server, right, in the cloud, so that you can have protection, agentless protection of the virtual machines, application-aware protection of the applications you're running within the VM. At the same time, if you choose to, you can also replicate a copy of the backup that you're actually doing in the cloud to an on-premise if you want to have a copy on-premise. And again, it's all stored in dedupe format, so you will have that bandwidth as well as storage optimization in terms of the backup storage, right? What some customers also tend to do is, if they have an on-premise environment, they want to have a high availability or a DR copy of their backup server, or what we call the Commvault server in the cloud. You can actually stand up a VM in Azure and basically run your DR Commvault there, right? And you'll still be able to manage both your on-premise and your cloud workloads. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the third use case is I want to leverage cloud as my DR site or recovery site, right? So how do I recover data to and in the cloud, right? In this case, let's say you want to leverage it as a cold DR site or a warm DR site, right? We are able to basically protect your on-premise workloads, replicate that workloads to the cloud, and restore and convert those virtual machines into a fully functioning or fully running Azure VM, right? Or if you just simply want to recover your databases or applications, we actually do that as well seamlessly. And we can automate and fail over and fail back of your virtual machines from on-premise to the cloud as well, right? So that allows you to then leverage cloud as your disaster recovery site, so that in the event anything happens, you can actually basically run your backups and also your workloads in the cloud. Okay, next slide, please. So the final use case or the fourth use case is migration, right? So this is an extension of the previous use case where you're leveraging cloud for disaster recovery. Migration involves basically virtual machine conversion as well, right? We can migrate the virtual machines, we can migrate applications or databases, because we can actually perform out of place restores, right? Whatever you're backing up on premise, we actually do a restore to a cloud VM, right? So that then you can then stand up and run your workloads in the cloud. Okay. Next slide, please. So we enable this capability, right? What we call the cross hypervisor restores for multi-cloud data migration. So, you can be migrating your workloads into Azure. For example, on-premise, you have VMware, you want to actually then now convert it into Azure, or you have some, other public cloud provider workloads that you want to convert into Azure cloud. We actually perform that, and we do have the capability to replicate and convert on the fly, right? So what you see on the screen is basically the source and targets that we support. For some, we actually do support two-way. You can fail over, fail back, right, within the different types of hypervisors. But for some, we just do a single one-time conversion and migration of the workloads. Okay. Next slide, please. Yeah. So now I'd like to take you through a demo, a feature demo of how easy is it to migrate, let's say, an on-premise VMware workload into Azure, right? Play the video. Yeah, thanks.
Moving data to the cloud is top of mind for most organizations today. However, many struggle with effectively migrating on-premise workloads into the cloud. With Commvault, we not only make that possible, but we make it extremely easy. In this short demonstration, you will see how simple it is to migrate your VMware virtual machines into Microsoft Azure using the Commvault Command Center. To get started in the Commvault Command Center, select Solutions, then Virtualization. You are presented with a list of all the known hypervisors in the environment. We are going to select Actions next to the VMware vCenter instance, and then select Restore. Here, we need to select the corresponding subclient or instance that the virtual machines were protected under. Next, we will need to select the Restore type. We will select the full virtual machine option. Now, we are presented with the virtual machines we want to migrate. After selecting the appropriate VMs, let's select Restore. Even though these machines were backed up in VMware vCenter, we have the option in Restore As to convert them to several different types, such as Amazon, Azure Resource Manager, Hyper-V, and OpenStack. We are going to select Azure Resource Manager. We also have some additional options, such as to power on the VMs after the restore, or whether to overwrite if the VM already exists. Let's go ahead and select both of these options. Because we have selected the overwrite option, we need to confirm this by selecting Yes in the pop-up screen. We next need to specify the resource group, as well as the storage account. The remaining options we will leave on the default settings. We are now ready to submit the VMware to Azure Resource Manager job. After submitting the job, we can track the progress by clicking on the View Jobs link. In the job summary, we can see the status of the overall job, and in the VM list, we can track the progress of each virtual machine. It looks like the job completed successfully. Let's make sure the migrated virtual machines are showing up in Azure Resource Manager. Yep, looks like they are all there, powered up and ready to go. The Commvault Command Center, a simple yet powerful tool that can help you quickly and effectively manage your cloud migrations. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so that was how simple it is to basically, migrate your workloads to the cloud. And with that, thank you for your time. I mean, we're here to take Q&A questions. Any questions that you might have?
Mm-hmm. As of now, there is no questions, but I'm sure they will be sending an email really, really soon. Thank you so much. We'd like to say to Encik Faizal and Ms. Elaine for that insight. And of course, as mentioned by Ms. Elaine earlier on, she's given us a walkthrough on what to actually do or how to manage workloads on cloud. The key capabilities that we've picked up earlier on include cloud-ready architecture, archiving, plus data recovery, in which are all really important and very helpful for all of us to manage our workloads. Thank you so much once again for spending your time with us. And I believe Ms. Elaine, Commvault has got some goodies to be given away to our attendees.
Yes, thank you. So for all of you, if you want to get a limited edition Commvault Polo Tee, do scan the QR code and complete a survey, and we'll send one right up to you, right? Limited edition Polo Tee. Pretty cool. Pretty
cool. I would like to scan as well. You can do it right now. Get yourself a limited edition Commvault Polo Tee. Thank you once again, Encik Faizal and Ms. Elaine, for your time. I'm sure our audience are, really thankful to actually see on how we can actually manage our workloads better. Thank you once again. So in case any of you who are still watching right now have any further questions for the speakers, feel free to send them across this email address, okay? Right in front of you, Bersama mysummit@microsoft.com. We will respond to you after the event. So moving forward, coming up next, allow me to invite and of course to introduce to all of you today, Mr. Noohu Mohamad, Solution Sales Lead, Business Applications for Public Sector from Microsoft APAC, and Ms. Tham Rong, Power Platform Product Marketing Manager from Microsoft APAC, to share more on how you can empower innovation with power apps. Over to you, Mr. Noohu and Ms. Tham.
Thank you. A very good morning, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Happy to have you all here. And today we are just going to focus very much on empowering innovation. Can I have the slide, please? All right, the theme for today, I'm going to spend about 20 minutes before I pass it on to my colleague, Tham. The theme is empowering innovation. So typically you would think of organizations, both commercial and public sectors, innovation dedicated to a particular team or a group of people. Where we come from in Microsoft, we believe we have the ability to empower innovation across the board. Next slide, please. So I would like you all to sort of go back 5 years, 10 years and see the number of apps that you had access to. Today in life, you cannot imagine life today without having access to an app. On average, we probably access 100, 200, maybe even 500 times a particular app on a phone, on a computer, maybe on a desktop. So what does it really mean? The demand for apps have grown exponentially over the last 5+ years. The projection today is that there will be a demand for 500 million applications in the next 5 years. Now, to put this into perspective, that's the number of applications that have been built over 40 years. Now, you may ask the question, why? Just go back in time. Two years ago, we never imagined a pandemic like this would hit us. We never imagined we'll be working remotely for a very extended period of time. Now, given the number of physical engagement we have with our citizens, with our customers, it becomes very important for public sector organizations and commercial organizations to stay in touch with citizens. Now, if you would like to develop applications to have the digital engagement, there are only so many developers that are out there. And in a code-first world that we come from, where typically to build an application, you would rely on a developer. There is only so much the companies and the organizations can do in terms of hiring an army of developers. Again, to put things into perspective, there is 5 times more demand for developers than the market currently has. The way these apps have exponentially grown over a period of time, today we believe about 86% of the organizations struggle to find the right technical talent. Now, what does it really mean? There is not enough people to build applications if we have to rely on traditional application development using tools like, where there is a coding involved. Next slide, please. So organizations typically would like to digitize their business processes. That's the theme today. In terms of innovation, if you could, as an organization, as a citizen-facing, you could be an agency, you could be a department, you could be a profit-making organization as well within the public sector. It's all about digitizing business processes. Next slide, please. I'm sure these photos are very familiar, right? It's all about efficiency. We had the leadership team talk about this. Raman and Enchik Adrin mentioned productivity, agility. So this is the impact of not being able to digitize business processes. A bunch of paperwork sitting on files somewhere. Nobody knows where these papers are. Under the desk systems where your users want to have an application, they don't have a developer, so they just go there and start building applications in a spreadsheet, paper processes. What is the impact of the leakage in efficiency, if you will, right? It starts with pen and paper tracking. Gone are the days when you would require a pen and a paper to capture your standard operating procedures. Specialized equipment, be it law enforcement, be it a manufacturing plant in an oil and gas company, it could be an utilities company. Standard operating procedures and equipment configurations are mostly in pen and paper. That restricts efficiency, Excel and local data storages, verbal communications. And lastly, from a business perspective, having all these not being digitized causes delay in corrective and preventive actions. A major impact from a citizen engagement perspective, not to mention the productivity and the loss of revenue or the loss of trust. Now, lastly, on the IT side of things, the critical alerts and notifications don't come on time. They don't get escalated properly. There is a massive IT backlog that sits within the IT departments, couldn't meet up with the business demands. There are very, very specialized measurement devices, tools that public sector across the world use. There is no proper integration. What does it result in? Siloed data. So what we are trying to do is address all these complex problems from an efficiency perspective. Next slide, please. So with that, the customers that we typically meet, oh, no, I have an application. I have my HR application. I have my sales application. I have my marketing application. I have a ERP to do finance and supply chain management. Of course, they are the most efficient and the fastest way to transform your business. But there is something in between. Every application that you go after, be it Microsoft, be it SAP, be it Oracle, any of those top leading application providers today, oftentimes organizations have to customize or to configure to fit to their processes in the industry. But then there is the last mile applications where there is no app for that. I'm sure we've all been in a situation where we go out, extend our ERP applications or LOB business applications into an Excel, into an Access database. So this is exactly what we are trying to address. How could you extend these applications and make it sort of, democratize the development of this without overly relying on your IT developers? Next slide, please. So innovation, what does it really mean? So this slide is about, what is blocking innovation today for organizations? There are three major factors. Custom coding. Organizations typically, particularly public sector, depend very heavily on custom coding. We all know that. As and when there is a demand, they go out, hire a bunch of contractors, get coding, very long and expensive development cycles, flexibility and management issues. Developers come in, finish the contract, they walk away. And the support and the manageability of these applications take a big impact. The second big bucket is third-party applications. So there are companies that come and go. There is always a very niche company that will come up and they will have an application that will be good for today. But with the minimal resources, with the limited R&D and innovation that these companies emphasize, after 6 years, maybe 10 years, you don't know what's going to happen. Lastly, there is no app for that. The shadow IT businesses go out and they start building their own little application in Excel, macros, Access, whatever you call it, creating a massive security and compliance risk. Now, what are we trying to do by addressing these three? First and foremost, you reduce the time and cost for governments to build these applications in a very agile manner. Number two, bringing the data together from a system of record to a system of intelligence, removing those silos. Number three, reducing the errors and thereby reducing the amount of negative impact it's going to have for your customers and your citizens. And lastly, consolidating those siloed LOB applications and have integrated business processes. So this is what innovation typically would mean to your organization from an efficiency and productivity perspective. Next slide, please. So in summary, I'm not saying it's just a challenge for businesses. When I say business in this particular case, it could be the agencies, the departments, the SOEs. It is a challenge for IT as well. There is budget constraint on both sides. Businesses have a limited amount of budget, particularly governments where they have a certain amount of responsibility to disclose where this money is being spent and being cost effective. There are budget constraints both from an IT perspective and business perspective, time and resource constraints. So there is only limited amount of time that you have to get those applications, those engagement channels going. The customers and citizens constantly demand new services, fast services. They want to engage with the stakeholders very efficiently. They look at omni-channel experiences. It's not just a computer anymore. It's not just a portal anymore. They want to come through mobile. They want to come through social media. So those customer expectations create new business models. paper processes, there is regardless of which customer I have talked to, agencies I've talked to, paper processes still exist. New business models. Today, we are in a situation where governments are constantly creating new business model as well, be it a simple service provision, going back into, it's not for free all the time. There are charging mechanisms in place to make sure there is some amount of accountability between governments and citizens. The IT and business partnerships, typically they good old days, they were considered two different organizations. They had the IT with a different set of priorities and the business with a different set of priorities. The partnership was always a bit of an issue. Limited agility, particularly when you rely on infrastructure in the good old days with on-prem infrastructure. Limited agility, meaning you don't have the right time, you don't have the right kind of people to start building these apps very fast and deploy. Need for differentiation. Again, there are, particularly in Malaysia, you could see, there is a certain amount of competition with the commercial sector as well. So the need for differentiation, providing the services that typically the enterprise commercial customers have started doing it. Technical skill shortages, there is only so many IT developers that can come out. But lastly, and most importantly, the security and the compliance risk. How do you do all this in a secure manner, in a compliant manner? Next slide, please. So here is a little sort of a view of where Microsoft has helped customers innovate and transform, particularly on a democratization of app development. As you might see, we work with multiple industries all the way from energy to banking to healthcare, government and retail and consumer goods. So this is the sort of ecosystem of customers we work with. Almost 90% plus of Fortune 500 customers today, Fortune 500 companies are customers of Microsoft from a digital innovation perspective. Next slide, please. So with that, let me try and get into where and how Microsoft can help, given all these challenges when it comes to innovation. So we refer to, I'm sure everybody is aware of citizen development. We're not talking about citizens in this particular case. We're talking about your business users being able to develop applications in a low-code application development format, low-code or no-code, be it even pro-code. We'll come to that in a few minutes. Now, first and foremost, why citizen development is important? Because you want to meet your business demands faster. As and when the demands come from your business, from the agencies, from the ministries, you want to make sure that you are at the front end of solving business problems. Number two, you want to reduce your cost. You want to minimize the amount of time it takes, the amount of money it takes in provisioning the infrastructure, in getting the codes to work, the complex testing cycles. And number three is the seamless app development. You want to make sure your systems extend beyond that particular application into the core applications, but at the same time preserving and maintaining the integrity of the data. And lastly, you want to extend and integrate with other applications that are outside of your ecosystem, be it the Facebooks of this world, the Twitters, or any other cloud services that your citizens engage with. Now, all this in a trusted format that Microsoft Trusted Cloud is famous for. Next slide, please. So with that, what does Microsoft offer from a low-code, no-code application development perspective for organizations like yourselves to build applications faster, to innovate faster? It's Microsoft Power Platform. Power Platform sits very nicely within the trusted cloud that Microsoft is well known for. It's Microsoft Azure, Microsoft 365, our LinkedIn social network, Microsoft Dynamics 365 business applications, and of course, the GitHub from a code management and build management perspective. So it is not a standalone technology. The trust that you have known to rely on with Microsoft Azure and Microsoft 365 Power Platform is the one that builds the bridges between these other two clouds, if you will. Next slide, please. So with that, the approach that we take, it's always not about low code or no code. There will be situations when there's some amount of code needs to be written. Not everything is simple. If I tell you that everybody can just go out there and start developing complex applications, I'm going to be lying. But that's not the view. But you also want to have a tool that will extend itself and transform itself all the way from your citizen developers who have absolutely no background in coding to people who are sort of into coding, probably with Excel, who can do the macros, who can do simple formulas and stuff like that with a low code format. And lastly, the code first developers. Instead of taking 3 months to develop an application, maybe 3 days, code first approach all the way down to low code approach is where Microsoft Power Platform fits in. Now with that, there are 4 different components within the Microsoft Power Platform. It all starts with Power Apps. Our app, Power App, is our low-code, no-code application development platform. This is a tool where you would use to quickly start building applications, connecting and extending it beyond the applications. In other words, going into LOB applications. I'm going to go anti-clockwise just for the sake of simplicity. Power Automate is our automation tool. Your RPA or your robotic process automation, business processes management, streamlining of business processes in, again, a very low-code, no-code sort of a format. Power BI, I'm sure everybody is aware of it, the industry-leading solution for data analytics and visualization. And to finish the loop, it's about having another channel to engage with your citizens, with your customer, the Power Virtual Agents. Without writing complex codes, how could you build a chatbot very quickly and have one more channel of engagement for your customers? Now, all this backed by a set of tools that will help you build these applications very quickly, infused with AI. We have AI Builder to sort of, without having this complex machine learning AI knowledge, you could start building applications very fastly and leverage those AI models. Dataverse, from a low-code, no-code database perspective, connecting to over 400 plus applications that are out there without having to spend time to build those connectivity. And lastly, from a security and governance perspective, how do you manage the platform? How do you manage those tools effectively together? Next slide, please. So with that, we will, this particular tool doesn't limit from a transformation perspective. So you could have quick wins in terms of users building a simple application for themselves. It could be a personal productivity solution. It could be a simple timesheet management solution. It could be a simple, a work order management solution. And it could go all the way to making structural changes to have business applications end-to-end with a code-first approach. Now, you can also go from one user to multiple users. The platform itself doesn't limit you. It gives you the ability to bring 3 kinds of teams together. The citizen developers who are focused on building these applications, the professional developers, who are, taking a code-first approach, and the fusion teams, those teams where the business and IT work together. So again, from a low-code perspective to a pro, all the way to a code-first approach, the platform gives you the ability to extend and transform the amount of work that you want to do. Next slide, please. So with that, I will end my context of how Microsoft Power Platform helps organizations to turn bright ideas into brilliant apps. With that, I'm going to hand this over to Tham, my colleague, to take you into the next level of details. Tham, it's all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Noohu. So thank you for setting the stage. And now I would really like to focus on how we can actually turn these bright ideas and ideas for innovation into brilliant applications on Power Platform. Next slide, please. So when we talk about, Microsoft Power Apps, you can build brilliant apps regardless of where you are in your development journey, as shared by Noohu. And essentially, we want to start from where you work to innovate with business solutions to solving problems with mobile-first and high-value applications for your mission-critical solutions. So next slide, please. So starting off with building applications from where you work, essentially Power Apps is actually natively integrated with familiar Microsoft tools such as Teams, Dynamics 365, and the wider Power Platform as shared by Noohu. This means that you can build, access, run and interact with your applications from interfaces that you're actually already familiar with. And as the workforce, really embraces a changing environment and a hybrid work environment today, what we really need are tools to collaborate and work efficiently. And with Power Apps, you essentially have one singular platform across your various familiar tools to actually enhance your productivity. So how can we actually, next slide please. So how can we actually, get started quickly by working on Power Apps and actually working with your familiar tools that you're already familiar with? So a huge value proposition of that is essentially that you can build applications where you currently work on. So firstly, you can accelerate your app development by leveraging on the wider Microsoft ecosystem, such as the pre-built templates that you already have in your workplace, and really be able to use those pre-built templates to go into ready-to-use applications in just a few clicks. And essentially, you can then run these applications on the go, either through Teams or other interfaces. Next slide, please. So if the templates aren't actually entirely suitable or actually suited to your needs, then you can leverage on our Power App Studio to further customize it. And when we talk about customization, you can use drag and drop functionality, built-in business logic and rules, as well as the Power FX language from our very familiar Excel interface. And we are essentially lowering the barriers towards building applications, not just for the everyday business user, but also for the developers. Next slide, please. So lastly, to close the loop in terms of building and assessing your applications, it would then be running your applications. So we can easily extend to and integrate with familiar Microsoft and non-Microsoft tools already in your tech stack by leveraging on 450 plus connectors that are actually made available on Power Platform. And this doesn't just impact the endpoint of actually running your applications, but also allows you to actually bring in and out data through Power Apps to actually offer a modern and high-value front-end interface to the data that sits in your back-end sources. So data is king only when it's leveraged to drive the right insights and actions to your business. And Teams and Power Apps, which you can see at the right bottom menu on the screen, in this example allows you not only to run applications built on Power Apps in Teams, but also to use Teams as your front-end building interface. Next slide, please. So what's next is then when we are able to start using Power Apps as our building block to solve our complex and mission-critical needs. So in this case, it's important that we have a singular platform that is agile and scalable to actually solve your complex business challenges. And this can actually be done with deep integrations of Power Apps with advanced capabilities such as AI, mixed reality, as well as RPA, which is robotic process automation. And you can also extend your solutions with Teams, Power Portals, which is essentially a web interface, and 475 plus connectors, as I mentioned before. Next slide, please. So then we want to talk about, how you can streamline your application development when we talk about leveraging on all of these scalable and agile capabilities that Power Apps have. So firstly, you can start streamlining your application development by innovating easily on top of a common data model built on Microsoft Dataverse. So when applications and automations can be complex and very unique in nature in terms of the different solutions that you want to build for your business, the common data model ensures that you can reuse your data and schemas across multiple innovations, whether it's applications, automation flows, chatbots, as well as dashboards. And you don't just stop at data storage on Microsoft Dataverse. It also allows you to build data models as well as business processes on top of Microsoft Dataverse interface. Next slide, please. So in the next part, we want to talk about how you can strive for innovation with advanced ProDev functionality and integration with Azure, Visual Studio, and GitHub combined with low code to really automate repetitive elements and focus on the creative code and strategy that adds value. So for example, certain data connections and components of an application can actually be standardized through ProDev functionality. And this ensures that we are actually automating repetitive elements in the application building process that are present in almost every application that our business will create eventually. Next slide. So then when we talk about building and innovation and running it to support innovation of our individual citizen developers as well as developers, we also want to build a culture of being able to govern these different innovation processes and innovation applications. So we want to ensure that there is the right governance and monitoring standards put in place where you're able to actually govern with confidence with one centralized view on the Power Platform Admin Center. So this allows you to see the usage, see what kind of innovation is coming about in your organization, and also being able to track how many people are actually using the individual innovations that they have already built. Next slide. So many organizations across the industries are indeed benefiting from the adoption of Microsoft Power Apps, but today I really want to share a particular story on City of Kobe. Next slide. So City of Kobe is essentially a government organization in Japan where during the early days of COVID-19, they were very overwhelmed by the needs of citizens, desperately trying to seek the status of their applications for relief funds that they were giving out as a government body. So what officials really needed at that point of time is a fast way to help them update COVID-19 data on the citizens' website or even address all the many different phone calls that were coming into the office. So one of the city's IT managers, as well as 2 Microsoft MVPs, developed a set of apps with Microsoft Power Platform, including both Power Apps, which are the applications, as well as Power Automate, which is the automation. So then they developed an automated telephone app, which was with Power Automate and Twilio, which really empowered citizens to be able to check statuses and also enable government officials to actually give citizens the required information at the right time and in a much faster response rate. Next slide. So what they built is essentially a COVID-19 special cash payment program solution where it served 1.5 million citizens with 99% of the population actually having to apply for this special cash payment program during COVID-19. And 3 highlights of this solution is basically the website that was built with Power Apps portal, which enabled citizens to actually check their cash payment application status to replace phone call enquiries. However, for the less digitally savvy citizens that still had to rely on phone calls to check their application status, that's when we ran an Power Automate flow with Twilio to enable that solution. And lastly, for the civil citizens and government officials that were actually interacting with the data and having to update the application status, we had an application for them to actually manage all these back office operations by being able to look up details or update the application status in real time, either through a phone call with the citizen or when they are actually interacting with the citizens themselves. So this is a very powerful example of how a government body was able to implement and use Microsoft Power Platform not just internally within their team and within their agency, but also how they could drive better citizen engagement through Power Platform. Next slide, please. So essentially, when we look at how Power Apps can drive positive, returns and look at how digital developer transformation can happen beyond the IT department, I want to highlight, 3 key points that we can really look at to see what are these positive business returns and outcomes for the business. So organizations can really realize a 94% ROI over 3 years by adopting Power Apps. And furthermore, for a 10,000 plus person organization that can realize a 11.4 million net present value over 3 years, and also realize a 24% reduction in professional developer as well as DevOps costs with Power Apps. So this doesn't just limit itself to businesses, but also to government organizations that like yourself. Next slide. So from an industry perspective, Gartner has also once again named Microsoft as a leader in low-code application platform just recently in September 2021. And you can see that Microsoft, is really at the top right of the quadrant in terms of its performance in low-code application platform, which is essentially Power Apps and the wider Power Platform. So I would like, next slide. So I would like to, thank you and end off today's presentation with Noohu by reminding you that, let's code with more power and really try and leverage on the powers of, a low-code platform that we have today.
All right, with that, thank you so much, Ms. Tham and Mr. Noohu, for your insights. It was pretty interesting and how we could actually learn that the Power Platform itself can digitize business processes. And we've heard from them both on how critical it is to identify the steps in evolving our business organizational procedures to ensure that we meet business demands. That's the most important part of it all. Thank you once again, Mr. Noohu and Ms. Tham, for your time. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you had garnered an amount of great insights and information thus far. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had a good break, refilled your coffee, stretched a bit, because we're going to have a very interesting topic up next. With this, I would like to invite our next speaker, who will be sharing on modern engineering practice, how Azure helps PETRONAS in their development to operation. With that note, please welcome Mr. Phuah Chong, Head of Digital Engineering from PETRONAS, to bring you through this session. Over to you, Mr. Phuah.
Morning, everyone. Can you all hear me well? Right. Thanks for having me here this morning to share a bit on how PETRONAS has leveraged on cloud to drive modern engineering practices. So as part of my role, I cover enterprise architecture and all build, delivery, and also run of all IT and digital services we have. And cloud has actually been a very important enabler in what we are doing. Can we move to the next slide? So I think before diving into more details about this topic, I believe it would be good to share a bit about PETRONAS business targets. In navigating these turbulent times, especially for the last 2 years, PETRONAS has actually redefined its business targets last year into what we call Moving Forward Together 50-30-0, where we are targeting 50% improvement in cash flow from operations by 2025, and to have 30% revenue to come from new non-traditional business by 2030. This is actually a very aggressive target. 30% revenue, if you look at PETRONAS revenue currently, and if you calculate 30% of that, is actually pretty significant to come from new non-traditional business in 9 years' time. And thirdly, we are targeting to be net zero carbon emission by 2050. And we believe the digitalization journey that we have started a few years back will be a key enabler for us to achieve these targets. While there are many initiatives going on in the pipeline to deliver our business targets, we firmly believe it is really critical for us to make sure that we get the foundation right to ensure we can really accelerate the pace in this journey and in a secure manner. I think you could have heard from the speakers yesterday about how important is cybersecurity nowadays, and also how cloud actually helps to provide further cyber resiliency. From technology perspective, we've been working very hard over the last few years to ensure we have solid foundation in place across data, cloud, connectivity, and cybersecurity. And for each of these areas, most likely it will take another 1 or 2 years to get to the maturity state that we are targeting. Though it will never stop, as technology is evolving so fast all the time, and we need to continue to stay in front of the curve to make sure that we are not being left behind. From process and practice perspective, we are driving adoption of agile methodology and product-focused teams in order to deliver value to business at pace. We have also instituted standard engineering practices across our development pipeline, and work is in progress to modernize how we operate and support the extensive application and infrastructure landscape we have. From operation perspective, we are still operating in quite a traditional way, where at times we are still very reactive, where we get a call from the end user before we are aware of something is down. Then you react, and by the time the user experience is really bad, because you need to react, and then it takes time for you to address issues. And as part of the pipeline, we will be moving towards making sure that we have the right technology to assist us to be proactive in addressing issues before the user even feel the impact, and looking at how do we leverage on some of the self-healing technology available to help us to do our job better. And finally, for us, people is the most important factor for us to be successful in this journey. It is about changing the culture of how we do things and also future-proof our people with the right skill set for us to really progress in this journey. As I mentioned earlier, cloud is a really important enabler for our digital journey in order for us to deliver the agility, the scalability, resiliency, technical capability, user experience, and the cost efficiency that we are targeting. Currently, we have 2 fully virtualized data centers at Bangi and Cyberjaya, plus some smaller regional data centers across a few locations nationwide and globally. We have started leveraging on public cloud in a small way since 2017, and we have only started accelerating the migration to cloud since last year, and now we are really stepping on the pedal. In PETRONAS, we have taken a hybrid cloud approach with the aim of having at least 90% of our workload and data to be in public cloud by end of 2022. And Microsoft obviously is one of the key partners in our cloud migration journey. Happy to share that we are halfway there. There's still a lot of work and a lot of challenges, but we are confident we will get there by end of next year. On top of that, we have made cloud mandatory, whether it's SaaS, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service. In fact, any requirement to place a physical infra in our data center nowadays is an exception, and that will require special approval. Besides the various outcomes that I've mentioned in the slide, the agility cloud provides and the pace and the pay-as-you-use model of cloud has also helped to drive innovation in the company, and we are more open to experimenting and taking risks, as at the end, if things doesn't work out, we can pivot, and we could even decide to cut the losses quickly without incurring significant upfront capital investment. We do have quite a sizable application and infrastructure landscape in PETRONAS. We have close to about 1,000 applications, and if you include the different versions we have, the different child apps we have, the number could actually multiply quite a bit. And also from infrastructure perspective, we do have quite a bit that are currently being hosted internally within our own data center. With the aggressive target to have 90% of our workload in public cloud by 2022, we can't really do this on a part-time basis, where I think it is very hard for the team to make sure that they continue to keep the light on, and at the same time, they need to work on helping us to migrate the application to the cloud. As such, earlier this year, we have set up a migration factory together with our migration partner, full-time focusing on cloud migration only, so that we can really accelerate the pace, or else 90% target by end of next year is definitely not possible. For each of the applications we have, it will go through a thorough assessment before we decide how we will be migrating to cloud, whether we just lift and shift or whether we need to refactor, re-platform, following the framework that we have established. We are also taking the opportunity to review and identify, is there any application that we could actually shut down? PETRONAS is a 40-over-years-old company, and we have many applications that we could have developed or we could have implemented along the years that sometimes it may be lost in the closet somewhere that you are not even aware. Or some applications that the usage is really low, or there are actually multiple applications that is doing similar type of work that we could actually consolidate. So we are also taking this opportunity to really access and identify what are the applications that we should shut down and help us to achieve some optimization as well. And there are also certain applications we may decide to retain in our data center or in the plants because of the performance and the latency requirement. But hopefully with the new cloud region that Microsoft is going to be building in Malaysia, hopefully that will help us to improve the performance and latency a bit. Because at the time, I think especially when it comes to IoT type of application, we do expect real-time, near real-time performance. When we move to cloud, when we adopt cloud infrastructure, I think the other area to really think about is also about our approach to HA and disaster recovery, which will need to change when we move to cloud, especially with the multi-AZ configuration that we have in each cloud region. And maybe for many applications, you don't really need to have a DR like what we used to be doing, like we have the primary main system at one side and a DR in another side, where in the cloud region, you actually have 3 geographically isolated data center that you could actually leverage on that multi-AZ configuration to really provide DR rather than having a DR being located in another country. Besides migrating the application and associated data to cloud, we also need to make sure internally we upskill our people, we make sure we have the right skill set in place, and we need to mature our cloud COE to ensure we continue to get better in delivering, maintaining, and also optimizing the infrastructure we have in the cloud. Moving to cloud doesn't mean that you will realize cost saving automatically. Unfortunately, if you think that by just moving to cloud is going to save you money, that may not be true, right? And this is an area that we put a lot of focus, such as putting in place a cloud consumption commitment plan with the cloud service provider. In order to enjoy better discount, we leverage on reserved instances to further optimize the cost. We do tagging and automated shutdown of the instances that we may not need, right? For example, we may have test, development, training environment for a specific application. So you really need to be able to make sure that leverage on the opportunity of the agility in cloud and the pay-as-you-use model in cloud, that when you are not requiring those instances, shut it down rather than leaving it running, right? And also, we may also want to look at how do we leverage on serverless architecture to refactor some of the applications we have. When it comes to cost optimization, this is an area that we should not lose sight. To be honest, we could actually end up spending even more in cloud than running in our own data center if we are not careful and if we don't focus on continuous optimization, continuous infra optimization of what we are doing. The theme data in the new oil is actually quite apt for us as an oil and gas company as we transform PETRONAS into a data-driven organization. Data is important for us to drive business performance, operation efficiency, and at the same time in developing new competitive edge for our business. We are focusing a lot on ensuring data integrity at source. And for a group of our size and scale, where we have presence over 50 countries globally, it is quite a challenging task to make sure that we identify where are all the data sources, critical data sources we need, where do they reside, and how are we able to extract those data and establishing a single source of truth for all critical data. We have started a journey and building what we call Enterprise Data Hub, which is a centralized enterprise data hub to help us to really democratize data analytics in PETRONAS. Most of our data platforms and operation are centralized in Azure, leveraging on native technology in Azure, such as Azure Synapse, Azure Data Lake, Cognitive Services, Azure Machine Learning, IoT Hubs, and also obviously complemented by other third-party tools. We continue to ensure data is accessible and made available in our Enterprise Data Hub through our group-wide data liberalization program. No one is supposed to be holding on to data they have. At the end, we need to ensure data is really liberalized and is accessible, obviously based on the necessary access rights given to the users. Besides the data analysts and the data science team, we are also working hard to make sure that we can actually enable the self-service capability to the end user so that data can be accessed on self-serve basis for advanced analytics and insights discovery, instead of having the IT team or the data science team doing all the works and being a bottleneck to the requests coming from the business. From practice perspective, like what I mentioned earlier, I think it's not only about technology. I think from practice perspective, we also need to make sure we have the right practice in place to enable us to really accelerate in this journey. Since 2 years back, we've started shifting the way how we deliver products or our services from traditional project-focused approach to a mix of project focus and also product focus. Obviously, we have to be fit for purpose. There are still projects such as major infrastructure project, implementation of key ERP system that will still be based on fixed scope, time and budget. For example, you can't really deliver an HR system, a half-baked HR system or finance system to the users. While for custom developed products, digital services, data-related development work, we are adopting agile approach, focusing more on quick iteration, ability for us to deliver value to business quickly in small iterative manner, instead of waiting for everything to be completed before we release anything to the users. We have been building agile and autonomous product teams since 2 years back, who will be able to undertake custom development. And this team is a combined team from business and digital who really owns the product end-to-end, from roadmap, from development, from support, and also the future continuous product capability, product features releases as well. From development perspective, we are adopting DevSecOps practices. We have collapsed both the build and run team into the same product team. Technically, the team who builds the product will need to continue to operate and improve the product. There's no longer this throwing across the wall mentality between the build and the run teams. I think many of you will be very familiar. In the old days, you have a delivery team, and when everything is ready, system is ready, then there's an operation team who will need you to fulfill a long list of checklists before the operation team is even willing to take over the system that's been implemented and continue to run with it. And along the way, when there are issues, then we started having finger pointings, operation teams blaming the delivery team that we have not done a good job, and vice versa, the delivery team blaming the operation teams that you don't know how to maintain the system that I've delivered to you. And I think the DevSecOps practice helps to remove all of this unnecessary handoff between teams, and it helps us to speed up product delivery and improve the quality that we are able to deliver product and services to our end user at a much higher confidence level. The similar product focus practice is applicable to both our internal team and also external partners who are building products and services for us. To date, we have more than 100 multi-function product teams working on various digital products and services that we have in order to service the whole PETRONAS group. Can we move to the next slide? Sorry for the small print in this slide. You are not supposed to read the details, but it's actually quite a complex landscape. I think when we first started this journey a few years back, we have many parties delivering products to us. Some products were delivered by our internal teams, but at the time, we only have a small internal development team, while many products were actually delivered by external vendors or mixed team of both external and internal team members. Everyone was following their own standards. It was hard. And some was even without any standard. There were different parties using different tools in the development life cycle, some without proper documentation and handover. And to be honest, sometimes for certain products, we couldn't even find the source code. It was quite a mess. And a few things we need to put in place quickly in order to get the house in order. We set up a common development standards everyone needs to follow, whether you are from the internal team or whether you are from external partners. We standardize the coding languages to be used for our products. It doesn't make sense to have 7, 8 different coding languages. It's so difficult to maintain. And imagine if I need to build an internal software engineering team, it is actually going to be very hard to have a team that understands, that can master all the different programming languages that we use. We need to put in place quality requirement. We need to enforce cybersecurity requirement for all the build teams so that we make sure the product is built securely from day one. There's also a set of expectations in terms of code coverage, documentation, repository, knowledge transfer, etc. Right? We also enforce standard tool set. So I think this diagram here shows that we do leverage on quite a bit of tool sets to make sure that we can really sustain the engineering practices that we are trying to enforce through the entire development life cycle. We do leverage quite a bit on Azure DevOps, which is one of the main tools we use in our CI/CD pipeline together with other non-Microsoft products. Each of the team is expected to monitor their performance, their velocity, their quality, and to make continuous improvement. We also have a small team, sort of like, I won't say policemen, but they do continuously assess the performance of each product squad and assist in any improvement opportunities, identify any opportunity that we could automate certain tasks and make the team to be more effective and efficient. At the time when we started this journey, we had a very small development team. And in parallel to all of these practices we were introducing, we have to also expand our software engineering team. And over the last 2 years, we have managed to expand our team quite a bit in order to make sure that we really have the internal bench strength to build and also to govern what we are doing. Right? It's not good enough to just have standards being prescribed, a documentation being shared with the vendors, but you need to also make sure internally you have the skill sets to be able to make sure that your team and all the vendors are actually following the right practice. Besides technology and processes, at the end, people is the most important factor in driving the success of our digital journey. From PETRONAS' perspective, we are committed to retool our existing workforce and to future-proof them with the right digital skill set to cater for our needs. And this is not only specifically for the technical team, but it's actually across the board for the whole 40,000 employees that we have globally. We used to be doing quite a bit of upskilling programs in a disparate manner, which doesn't really help and doesn't really allow us to be able to scale at pace. Sometime this year, we decided to pull all of these digital-related trainings under PETRONAS Digital Academy, working together with our HR team. So this is a group-wide initiative that we are leveraging on PETRONAS Digital Academy to retool our human capital with the right digital skill set. This was launched in July this year in partnership with Microsoft and a few other partners to ensure we can really accelerate the pace of reskilling our people across the whole organization. The Academy has two immediate objectives. First is to equip all our employees with foundational knowledge like Agile, cloud, cybersecurity, data analytics, and etc. And Power BI is one of the offerings. We want to make sure that hopefully all employees will be able to build simple dashboard on their own using Power BI. You don't have to come to the digital team to build dashboard for your day-to-day business needs. Secondly, is targeting our internal technical people in order for us to build deep technical skill set in-house to accelerate the delivery of digital products and services. This includes structured programs to develop software engineers, data scientists, cloud engineers, and etc. And in midterm, we intend to expand this digital academy to external community to fulfill a bigger agenda to grow digital talents in Malaysia. And also, this will help us to build our future digital talent pipeline as well. We have been on this exciting journey for the last few years. I thought it could be useful to share some of the learnings we have. Technology most only is not the easier. Technology most only is the easier part, right? The hardest is actually about changing people's mindset and processes. I think many of you could have actually heard this in other forums as well. At the end, the key challenges are about people and processes. We do have challenges in shifting towards Agile and also be product focused because it's very different from how we used to be delivering projects to our business. And this is across both the digital team and also the business team. There have been mixed results. We are seeing positive results in certain areas, but there are certain areas that we are not moving fast enough. We are still in the journey, not really at a comfortable place yet. There's definitely shortage of digital talents in the market. Besides recruiting from outside, we will need to develop on our own, leveraging on PETRONAS Digital Academy and also leveraging on our external partners. It is also critical to re-adapt internal processes. While we try to be agile, we want to be able to deliver things faster in smaller chunks. We also want to make sure from internal processes perspective, processes like procurement, contracting, hiring, all this has to be evolved along the way in order to make sure that we can actually keep up to the pace, right? And communication is also a very important area. We need to ensure people are clear on why we are doing certain things and how they can contribute to achieve the company's objective. It has been a challenging 2 years or 18 months to do all of this with the COVID-19 pandemic, right? But trust me, it works. Almost everything could be done remotely if you have the right motivation, if you have the right tools and connectivity in place. We are making good progress in this journey. I think while it has been challenging, but I would say all of us are having a lot of fun. And we are really motivated by the results we are seeing and also some of the awards that we have been winning recently. I've been in PETRONAS slightly longer than 2 years. And to be honest, there've never been a dull moment over my last 2.5 years journey in PETRONAS. But honestly, I don't think there's an end to the journey. This is a journey and we are still in day one and there are many, many more to come. And if you like what we are doing, do get in touch. I would be happy to share a bit more. And also, we are still expanding. Sorry, this is free advertisement. We are still expanding aggressively. So do get in touch if you are interested to discuss further. I hope this sharing has been useful. This is actually my last slide. And thank you very much for your time. And I'll pass it back to Megan. I'm not sure whether there's any questions from the participants that we could address.
Mr. Phuah, I believe we have one question that we'd like you to address. Let me read it out to you. Okay, Mr. Phuah, what is the most important step or phase that has given PETRONAS the confidence to plan a 40% migration from on-premise to public cloud next year?
How would I put it? I think there have been quite a lot of detailed work that's taken place. Like what I mentioned earlier, since 2017, we have actually started leveraging on public cloud in a small way. And at the end, it's about ability to be able to show results that will actually help to build the confidence. But obviously, there's a lot of detailed work that's taken place in terms of looking at the technical capability, cybersecurity aspect, user experience, because we do operate across 50 over countries. We also want to make sure the infrastructure we leverage on could really deliver the user experience we are looking at, which we do struggle quite a bit, as currently a lot of our applications resides in a single data center in KL or in Bangi, right? And obviously, we also need to consider from cost perspective, is it going to cost us more, or is it going to help us to be able to be more efficient, right? So I think there are a number of factors you really need to look into, and we did work out a 7 years business case looking at comparing running on-premise versus in the cloud before we really accelerate the move.
Well understood. There's a lot of groundwork, fundamentals that has to be looked into before we'll be able to actually achieve and acquire the results. And I guess PETRONAS has shown the best case study for many other agencies and companies to adopt as well. So thank you so much. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Phuah, for giving us a great insight on how PETRONAS actually apply the right practices, which are project and product driven, and the way that PETRONAS actually adopt to modern engineering practices to actually deliver digital services, in which I think is pretty inspiring. Thank you so much, Mr. Phuah, for sharing.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, in case you've got any further questions that you like PETRONAS or any of our speakers today to actually rectify and get the answers for you, do email your questions to Bersama MY Summit at Microsoft.com. We'll be, getting your answers as soon as possible, and we will respond to you after the event. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you are pretty excited because we've learned quite a bit today. And moving forward, I think we are ready for our final session. With this, I would like to introduce and to invite Mr. Justin Yeap, Azure Data and AI Specialist from Microsoft Malaysia, to share more on why data matters and how you can provide better citizen services through richer data insights. I think he's ready. Over to you, Mr. Justin.
Hey, thanks. Just want to check, is the slide up? I don't see my slide. Hey, thanks. Okay, so this is going to be my, the last session, and hopefully you guys already enjoyed the first few sessions, and thanks Mr. Phuah for his insights from PETRONAS as well. The topic over here, providing richer citizen insights, and I'm going to just go around in terms of the use cases which both AI and analytics can actually help from your whole organization as well. Next slide, please. So as you can see from here, in Microsoft, we kind of treat all the topics over here kind of a wide scope. And one of the key things which are when Microsoft, both AI as well as analytics is in place and at work, the couple of things which we really consider, and in fact, in most of my day to work as well, we kind of do a review in terms of all these key aspects. First thing first, in terms of fairness, in terms of reliability, transparency, even things like privacy and security from the data which is going to be used in the use cases, as well as some of the deployments, the accountability, whether does the use case being deployed is being governed correctly from the customers themselves, or yourself, or in the other sense, even from Microsoft. So, and last but not least is the inclusion part, where we want to make sure that this is going to be discriminating anyone. The use case will not be used as part of a criminal act, or even a anything which is going to be harming both the ecosystem as well. So that's the AI principles which we kind of Microsoft kind of adhere to. Next slide, please. So in terms of the citizen outcome, right? A citizen AI for the citizen. What we can see over here is there are several outcomes which we are looking at, and most of it is to understand in Malaysia, where are we, as well as where are we going to be targeting to, and helping Malaysia out. So that's the real key main agenda over here today. And if you look through the next few use cases, right, I'll be going in a couple of ways in terms of how we can actually help you guys to determine what are the services which is required from the Azure part, as well as what are key things which you guys should be able to consider. Now, if I were to take a stand over here and probably just give a kind of my opinion over here, is that where are we today? We are around the in some place in some of the business unit we have. It's within the transactional government perspective, and quite moving in some of the government places as well. They are actually moving into a service-centered oriented kind of government. And one of the key main thing over here is to look at is if you look down under the enabler, the cross agency accountability. That's one thing which a lot of agencies are looking at this present moment, kind of sharing the results which they have from their data, probably pushing in some of the required funding to entrepreneurs, especially down in this pandemic environment as well, and then looking at what are the ways which we can help among each other. But I'm also seeing a lot of analytics and AI use cases popping up, which means that there are certain agencies within the government itself which is actually moving into the intelligent government part. And that's one of the key main focus as well in terms of how we in Microsoft can actually help you. Okay, and last but not least, if you look through from the enablers down there, technology and data portion, the implementation of cloud strategy, as we have, Microsoft has already done the announcement in terms of what we actually can help in terms of both the data center as well as helping to skill up Malaysians as well as all the proper resources required. We are actually moving and providing a lot of education as well as training to all of our customers, be it whether is it current or even prospects, as well as the same time to look at how we can actually help you guys in terms of deploying them. So that's something to really look at from this particular deck. Next slide, please. Now, in a transformation in the government, we are looking at this particular 6 aspect. One of the first key thing over here is to redesign the service delivery. Definitely, there is a requirement for us to actually optimize how we actually deliver the service. Second part of it is, and very key over here, is between modernizing the technology for your security as well as your data privacy. Okay, so that's another part which Malaysia government is actually really doing quite a lot. And then the third part of it is responsible in using new technology, and this is actually not only the responsible for any of our clients who is actually using the use case, but it's also actually from us ourselves in Microsoft to actually help you guys in terms of determining what can be done or what should not be done over here. Now, the fourth part of it is leveraging data, or like I love to say, if there's no data over here, there would be no analytics as well as AI requirement. So you want to get more insights from your data and actually squeeze out more to actually, especially in this environment, to actually get that kind of leverage you can use. Now, of course, optimizing the employees' times and skill, and that's where we kind of invested quite heavily in terms of the education as well as skilling capability. And last but not least is building a resilient and flexible approaches. Now, building a resilient and flexible approaches here refers to either number one, you can actually build this entirely on cloud. We also do have hybrid approach. We also do work with a lot of our other agencies out around, including our friendly partners around, to actually help to build that whole use case for you guys. So that's something which we kind of encompass this, and last but not least is to ensure that Microsoft provide you guys the both trust as well as confidence in using our product as well as our solution. Next slide, please. Now, in this slide, I'm just introducing you the whole AI as well as the analytics portfolio which we have over here. We'll go from top to bottom. From the application perspective, we both have the Microsoft 365, Microsoft Dynamics 365 as most of the what we call client interfacing as well as your day-to-day work kind of operation. Now, we also include a lot of our Microsoft partner solution, and that's one key thing which you actually can explore in our Azure marketplace. There are a lot of multiple solutions which if you may have not think of, probably just browse them through from our Azure marketplace. And at the same time as well is to look at some of the key environments which you probably have, or key solutions which you already probably have in your environment, and you want to see whether if it can be replaced or can be even modernize them as well. So that's where we have a lot of wonderful partner solutions out there, which is already available in our marketplace. Next to look at is we do have our Power Platform, and this is very, very powerful in terms of what we can actually do from the visualization perspective, where we have the Power BI. If you want to build a low-code, no-code kind of environment, we also do have the Power Apps. And introducing our automation capability, which we have the Power Automate. And last but not least, things like doing a Power Virtual Agent, where it actually helps you guys to actually build very easy chatbot use cases, or even agent use cases within your Microsoft Teams itself. So the whole Power Platform over here kind of like enhance your day-to-day operation, as well as building that whole landscape for you guys to actually work easier. Now, but powering both the application as well as the Power Platform over here is the AI analytics tools which we have. And that's where, if you look at it, things like bot services, the analytic bots, chatbot capability, and you have cognitive search. And this is something, which is very, very kind of like a visionary in terms of what we can actually offer from a search capability perspective, searching using vision, searching using pictures, even voice control, as well as even a reverse lookup from a whole entire media, for example, analyzing through a video. Okay, so that's one part of the cognitive, which we actually kind of embed that to all the other cognitive capabilities, such as the content moderator, form recognizer, which actually uses part of the vision API, as well as the analytics in terms of the form. Video indexer, which as I was mentioning just now, actually come up from the cognitive search. And then you have the things newly introduced, probably in the early of the year. We have this thing called Matrix Advisor, which actually allows you guys to actually do things like a simple analytics from a logs, trying to find out what matrix is out of the order, something which is extraordinary, for example. So that's where the Matrix Advisor is. An immersive reader, some of these AI capabilities, again, which allows us to do kind of a language understanding, kind of understand the whole capability in terms of a passage. Now, all these are actually customizable down from our cognitive services, our basic cognitive services which we have over there, which is the vision, the speech, the language, as well as the decision making. So these are the basic building block for it. So and how easy for you to actually call this? They are all within API calls. They are all pay per use. You can actually easily integrate them to any of the analytics model which you have. For example, down in the last portion of the slide over there, you actually can see things like the machine learning platform, where we are using Azure machine learning to actually help you guys in terms of doing modeling. So these are, by the way, this is not the whole full scape as well. We can actually, do feel free if you do have any use cases which you can think of and you want us to help you to actually build up the building block, for example, using part of the AI as well as the ML, the machine learning capability over here, we can actually help you guys in this. So do feel free to approach any of us or send an email to all of us, and we actually can try to help you out. Next slide, please. Now, as part of the AI and analytics for government perspective, these are some of the key use cases which I'm actually going to present in the next few slides, and probably detail them out in terms of some of the services which we use. Things like enabling the what called remote access, where we have the paperless court system as part of the use case. Another part of it is the empowering the cross-agency collaboration. Now, this kind of refers to text, but I also can say that you actually can use this between all your different other agencies or different business units. The intelligent conversational agents, or chatbot over here, refers to the capability for you to actually use chatbot in both external, which you actually view yourself as a customer or consumer, but you also can use these agents as internal usage, where you actually kind of do things like resetting your password, trying to see what are the using the Azure search capability through the chatbot, all this kind of capability. Last but not least, we are talking about delivery of connected services over here. Again, it does not have to be your environment, specific environment to this, but you also can actually kind of tie them up within what you have in your environment. So these are the few use cases which I'm going to go through in the next couple of slides. Next slide, please. So as part of the paperless court system over here, or in this sense, what we are talking about is talking about full documentation system. You can think of that as one part of it, and also to look at how you can actually mine the data out from documents, as well as providing action out from them. You actually can integrate this to even your Power Platform per se, or even looking at capability in terms of integrating to your electronic document management system. Next slide, and we'll see how we actually do this, some of this. So first part of it is we look at things like using AI, the Microsoft AI capability or our cognitive capability, which is actually to remove the barriers from both language understanding as well as even speech. Okay, so that's one part of it, which the Microsoft translator, even text to speech or even speech to text, also we do have that capability, and we support that many language. I believe the number has gone up considerably quite a lot within the past quarter itself, but there should be additional more languages which we're going to support as infra as well. So that's one part of using AI over here. And as you can see from this paperless court system, one of the key capabilities is actually to allow translation as well as transcribing judicial proceeding in real time. Take note the word real time over here. So in fact, if you use this in some of your environment, you actually can help to you actually can probably like the speech which the presentation which I'm giving now, you actually can do what they call transcribing on real time, and actually kind of document that as part of it. And from a solution perspective, we kind of use a lot of the Azure Cognitive Service which we have over here. And like I mentioned just now earlier, what we want to do is actually to mine out what we have spoken or what we have been transcribing and provide actionable items or data actions. And that's something which you actually can kind of like, and you see from the outcome there, you actually can kind of streamline them and integrate as well as put it into your transparent operation. Some of the use cases which I've kind of seen is that it actually can also be integrated to your robotic process automation, RPA tool, for example, or even move up to a decision-making tool. So that's one part of it. Now, if we look down to the architecture, next slide, please. If we look down to the architecture perspective, what we have is kind of similar. We have the ingestion part, we have the processing as well as the modeling. In this sense, basically the analytic and intelligence, we're in the middle section, and then basically down to the visualization layer where you'll be building up the report. And if you see from here, there are many kind of form of data ingestion which we can do. Okay, like I said, it doesn't have to be on paper. On a court system, but look at it into your environment, like things like EDMS or electronic document management system. You also things have like using voice recording or even video recording, which you actually can ingest them. Next slide, please. Now, the next slide will be showing in terms of the in-depth of what are the Azure services, both analytics as well as AI capabilities, which we can actually show in terms of a real process, real flow. So starting from the left to the right, as you can see from here, we can ingest both the existing internal data as well as even real-time data, be it a video data, even social media, even things like IoT if you want, as part of that whole data source capability. And in the middle of it, you have the tools like the Azure Data Factory, things like using Event Data Hub to actually bring in the data across or ingest the data across, be it from a batch processing or even real-time processing. Next part of it is where do we store them? So that's where the store part come in, right? So we do have our Azure Data Lake Store, okay, ADLS over there. Or even you want to use Stream Analytics at the bottom for you to stream events, things like social media, for example, and push it down to our NoSQL database, which is called the Azure Cosmos DB. And after you have done the storing, what you want to do next is actually to apply intelligence on top of it. And that's where the things like analytics as well as the machine learning part starts coming in. And that's where you have things like Azure Machine Learning. You have the for cognitive service or the branch out capability, things like content moderator, which I was talking about, and all those. So those are the part which we actually allows the intelligence to be run on top of it. And of course, things like doing cognitive search, for you to actually look for data, for example, what are the data which have already been stored. You want to do correlation on top of it. So that's one part of it as well from an intelligence perspective. Now, next, you can go both ways. If you want to do things like enriching the data, that's where the batch processing starts coming in, and we have this very wonderful service, the Azure Synapse. we have been seeing a lot of uptick in Azure Synapse, especially down in the environment where customers are moving away from data warehouse, traditional data warehouse technology, to a whole new data mining capability, which involves mining from both structured as well as unstructured data, and that gets the a kind of a enriching capability which we have from the Azure Synapse, and then you can actually perform analysis and then move up to a visualization where you have the report. So that's where the whole workflow is as a typical. Now, as you can see from here as well, one thing I want to take note is that do you need to use every of these service over here? The answer is no, or the whole technical answer over here is it depends. Depending on the requirement of the or the capability which you guys are planning to from a use case perspective, we will help you to kind of decide in terms of what's actually needed, what can actually be streamlined and even optimized. The next part of it is you can also look into integrating your existing applications. Even for example, we are very, very open in terms of if you have a click view and you want to use click as part of the visualization, sure, we will definitely be able to actually integrate to them. Or even if you have your own RPA tool, then you want to use some of this to actually allow things like what they call processing some of it with approval or audit capability. And yes, you can actually use your existing environment to actually be implemented into it. So that's just one main note which I would like to kind of inform you here. Okay, next slide, please. Now the cross agency collaboration, take note that this is a very key in terms of how we actually help a lot of agencies, be it whether between the government or between business unit or business unit to government or even GLCs, which I've already been receiving a lot of requests lately as well. So let's deep dive into it. Next slide, please. So one of the first capability over here is to actually allow things like, again, using AI as well as analytics service in terms of providing a data insight, be it from a location or even a next best action recommendation engine. So that's one part of it which uses both AI as well as analytics over here. And the key part over here is to digitize most of this or all of this operation. Okay, we used to have a lot of manual as well as a very labor intensive kind of operation, but in this sense, when we digitize them, we can actually provide a what we call a very quick outcome, very orderly and precise, as well as provide a, as you can see from the outcome there, a situational awareness, and that provides a both positive impact in terms of the delivery perspective as well as experiential. So that's one part of it which we kind of have been seeing a lot of interrelated agency connection as well. And how do we do that? Next slide, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Thanks. So if you look at it from CEO here, we kind of use a lot of the bot services around. And in fact, you as a customer, you are using things like a lot of chatbot capability within your mobile app. You also see a lot of a capability within when you visit websites using your laptop or even your mobile, for example. So there are a lot of bot services, or what we call a virtual agent over here. We actually help in terms of helping you guys from processing a instruction, making an order, confirming what to do next, all this kind of thing. So that's how we kind of feel that from a workflow perspective, from the left all the way to the right, what we can do is to actually use bot capability to actually allow users to interact with them naturally, of course. And at the same time as well, we do have some of our partner solution out there in the market, which actually allows even much more enhanced capability. For example, you're talking about from finance, or even things like insurance, loan, all the way to a support-wise center, like for example, like what I'm showing over here. So if you look at there, you have the first response bot using the bot services. Then you also have using things like a IoT capability where your mobile can actually provide a location tracking and all this. So those are some of the capability which again you actually can kind of fit it into, and then use cognitive services where we have the smart assist cognition as well as the intelligence over there to actually help you to kind of do a what they call a decision, probably informed decision making. And that's where the part where it becomes very useful if there is a time bound operation, or if you are just unaware how to do next. So that's the part where the smart assist cognitions all starts coming in. And of course, from a dynamic data feed perspective, you have both structured and unstructured data. And to see how we can do with it, next slide, please. So from the previous slide to this current slide, what we're going to show you is some of the services which we kind of can help you, or you probably can take some idea from it. Again, from the left to the right, if you look from the left on-site crisis mode, what we have is things like Azure Maps. Okay, so yes, we do have Azure Maps to actually allow you to kind of like pinpoint your location. You want to look from what they call point A to point B on route direction, as well as distance, as well as traffic capability. You can use the Azure Maps as part of it as well. And then next in the middle portion, you have the voice-based next best action, right? So you have that bot services there, which is offered from Azure. We have the speech API. We can use a web app, develop the web app from a low-code, no-code capability perspective, and then store them in a NoSQL database, which is the Azure Cosmos DB there. And for the next best recommendation engine, what we do is actually use Azure machine learning over there to actually feed in the real-time capability, use the models which you have done previously or previously modeled. For example, over here, real-time safe path, meaning you say that which is the fastest path with the least traffic, with the safest route, meaning you say that there's probably no tolls, or it's a highway where you can actually be safe to speed within the speed limit, of course, and that provides you with the base next best action capability. Again, you can actually integrate this to even environment where we are talking about doing logistic delivery, for example. So these are the kind of models which we can do over here, and then of course you can enrich them, like at the bottom there, you can, or the customers can even enrich them through things like using custom vision. For example, I want to validate whether the person who is actually making the call, are they the right person? I want to see their IC or even passport if it's needed, and probably do some modeling tool also to see whether have this person has been calling in for quite often and want to see us. So these are the kind of action which we actually can provide from a first response assistant as well as crisis management. And last but not least, all these are stored within the Azure Data Lake. You can actually store them within the both, like I said, the historical data or even the structured data. So this is an example of one way which we can actually look into from a capability perspective as well. Next slide, please. So in delivering the trusted and secure services within our government itself, we have both things like tax fraud, or basically in this sense, you're talking about an anomaly detection, and as well as intelligent conversational agent, again, the chatbot capability. So it's pretty much similar from what my previous slide is, but let's deep dive into some of this. Next slide. Under the tax fraud detection or anomaly detection, what we call, next slide. You can actually see that we kind of inspect a lot of logs in real time. Most often or not, most of these logs are from multiple different data sources, in which is streamed probably a million logs in a couple of seconds. So that's a very huge amount of data which we are trying to break down it. And the idea over here is to do a risk modeling as well as doing scoring and find anomalies, and that's one of the key main part which we can do. And the whole outcome over here is actually, number one, to protect your environment or your citizen itself, or in this sense also is to protect whatever transaction which is coming in, and kind of filter them out accordingly as you can see fit. Next slide. And from a from this part of slide, you can actually see that we use a couple of capabilities. For example, we use predictive, where we do kind of scoring capability, and then we use anomaly detection again. These two are kind of the common AI capability which we do. For example, if you are looking at I mean, even this particular case also, you can actually look at things like a preventive maintenance as part of it as well. So where we are looking at doing prediction as well as anomaly detection. Of course, then you want to do next is what's next over here, where you have the fraud action subsystem on the top right, and then you do the fraud analytics where you do knowledge mining. You want to see where this actual transaction coming in from point A or even through point A, B, C, D, all the way to X, Y, Z. You want to see where it has been through. So that's where the fraud analysis starts coming in. And in order for us to do this, next slide, please. In order for us to do this, we actually use a couple of very unique data. I mean, so I won't call them unique, but I'll call them the unique data services, which we can see that it's pretty much helping out, and it's kind of pre-packaged as well. The same thing you see from here, real-time transaction, you can use Event Hub and then Stream Analytics and put it down to blob storage. The same thing also in terms of historical data or batch processing, where you call it, you can use the data factory and put it them to Azure Data Factory. Now, what's going to be next is basically the one which is the key important one is if you look at the anomalous pattern detection in the middle there, you have this thing called Azure Matrix Advisor, which actually helps you, which actually kind of a single API call which detects out of the norm kind of transaction. So if in a normal use case, you folks will be using things like application, which is going to be threshold bound. Over here in Matrix Advisor, you're only going with threshold bound, you're detecting out of a norm pattern. It can be below the threshold as well. In fact, you're talking about seeing that this transaction A, B, C, D all goes only to a single location. Okay, that's the kind of capability which the Matrix Advisor can do. Of course, you also can do the risk modeling by using the same Azure Machine Learning as well. You have the model created, you use Azure Machine Learning, and you saw the model, and you actually process them and provide them. So that's the part of it. And from the right-hand side, pretty much similar. You can do cognitive search. You can store them in the Azure Synapse Analytics and actually display them from a visualization layer perspective using the Power BI. So that's the whole part of it. Like I said, while this use case is called tax fraud detection, the idea over here is you as a business user also, you actually can use this to identify things which are anomaly, things which you want to know what's going to happen next, or you have already a lot of historical data or logs data. So that's the whole part of use case. So you can repeat this use case as well. Next slide, please. Last but not least, we are talking about intelligent conversational agents, or in this sense, intelligent chatbot. Next slide. So if you look at it, the idea of us very much similar to the previous two use cases before. We are looking at things to, the AI capability to actually manage a request at any point in time, whether be it on your own mobile, whether be it from any of the digital devices. And that's the idea over here is we kind of use natural language to actually validate all the information. We provide the capability in terms of providing recommendation, even kind of point them to the right direction in terms of what how the users, or in this sense citizens, are able to experience that in a very helpful and fast manner. So that's the whole part of the chatbot, and this is one of the and I kind of like advocate that if you have no idea what you want to do, perhaps this is one of the fastest and easiest way for you guys to actually move up into using AI capability. So next slide. Again, it's pretty much simple. You have the app being built, but the app uses things of like bot services, things like a conversational agent, as well as the knowledge data store, which is on the right hand side. So for those who are still figuring out how to do this, I would advise you guys in terms of looking at use very simple, starting from a very simple use case, which is the things like the FAQ maker, okay, frequently answered question. So these are some of the first or kind of the common use cases which you can actually run your chatbot with, and you actually can provide analytics on top after that as well. So that's one part of it. And for us to help you guys to do this, next slide, please. There is the capability of you, again, using the bot services, starting from the left, the bot services, using bot logic to actually allow you to figure out what to do next if you are trying to ask whether the user of the chatbot needs to authenticate themselves or not, or should they be a general question, for example. Then in the middle, we use things like language understanding, doing things like translator. If there is a need for you to fill up form or probably show your IC or even a document, we have form recognizer to actually help in terms of picking up the data from images. Like I mentioned just now as well, Q&A maker is one of the first use cases which for those who are trying to explore into chatbot, those are something which you can actually look at into. And then there's also a personalizer capability, which is the new AI capability which allows users will be personalized in terms of what they have asked historically, and the bot is able to guide them to what they actually need. And all these are actually pulled into as well using both the structured as well as unstructured data and do the analytics. So that's where the self-improvement loop starts coming in. So a lot of times when me myself navigate with the customer, like you guys as well, to look at bot services, we normally go with this kind of framework, and we kind of explore starting from the Q&A maker, move up to some use cases like very simple, like helping to reset password, looking into what we call application access requirement, and then you also move on next to whether you want to do this for internal usage, like for HR capability, or even between finance or between or within different business unit within the same organization. So that's one chatbot which we can look at. The other part of the bot services which we as consumer will use is the external facing chatbot, where things like Q&A maker, submitting forms, getting directions, getting help, all this, again, that's the other most of the common use cases over here. So this is my almost the last slide, but it's just to show that from bot services perspective, this is what we can do. Now, next slide. As a summary perspective, next slide. As a summary perspective, what we in Microsoft, our AI capability, it's analytics and AI capability, we are able to kind of like provide you with a efficient as well as a bit more accessible capabilities from a process and procedure. Of course, from a insights perspective, between the like the first responder kind of use case where we use GPS coordinate or even a Azure mapping capability, you can also use that with things like next best recommended action. Things like using cross agency collaboration. Again, this is the part where we kind of collaborate between different organizations, as well as what are the capabilities which you have to actually look for anomalies. So that's another part of it which our analytics and AI capability can do. And at the same time, using last but not least, and I think it's one of the most common key services which a lot of customers are already exploring now is bot services. And I would kind of encourage them, I kind of encourage you guys to actually look at it and probably ask us also in terms of trying to help you guys to start up this. Okay, so this is my last slide. Thanks, and I'll pass over to your MC. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. You've heard it from himself, the Azure data and AI specialist, about intelligent applications to assist agencies in various important aspects. And of course, this is one of the best things, to empower cross-agency collaborations with the assurance of security and safety. So I guess he has covered it all. You should feel very, very secure with using all these applications, and you can just be in touch with Mr. Justin to know more. Thank you once again, Justin, for your time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think it is time for us to have a little more fun once again. A sneak peek into what we have in store tomorrow. The theme of the session is Cloud Security and Governance for Malaysia Public Sector. Our speakers will be discussing on what fuels innovation in the public sector with public cloud, and then we'll have a panel session to discuss on security best practices. We will also learn on how to protect your environment against threats. And finally, we hear more about data classification for a digital government, everything that will get us geared up for the coming future. Of course, not forgetting we have more quizzes and prizes up for grabs. So make sure that you join me, join all of us tomorrow. We have now come to the end of the second day of Bersama Malaysia Summit 2021. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you have found the sessions really insightful. And with this, I would like to show our huge and biggest thank yous to our partners, Enfrasys, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, Commvault, and of course, Pajasa for their support at this summit. My name is Sophia, and we look forward to see you again tomorrow on day 3 of the Bersama Malaysia Summit 2021. So stay safe. I see you tomorrow and have a good day.